Well, hello, and welcome back again for those who are following me for today's ride. Now, today I'm going to talk about a subject that I might have alluded to, but I've never really discussed properly, and that is, why is it so difficult to find the right luggage for my bike? And in this case, Zancora, my classic 650. Why am I struggling? But it's not just this bike. All the bikes I've had, I've always struggled to find luggage. Now, what I'm going to do today is, apart from be open with a few questions that I have for you with your experience of luggage, I'm going to share my experience. Now, it wasn't a video I'd kind of originally planned to make, but over the last few years, as I've looked into it, I've kind of gone through a bit of a learning curve and a bit of a journey in terms of learning about luggage. And I thought I'd share some of that. But luggage to me has kind of, I've broken it down into 4 key areas. There's probably a lot more. And at the time of going through it, I wasn't even aware of these 4 key areas. But as I reflect, and just certainly to help in the purposes of this video to describe what I'm talking about, the 4 key areas are this. First of all, there's the style. How does it look? Does it add to the image of the bike? Then there's the, what I call the practicality. You know, it might look good, but how useful is it? Its strengths and weaknesses. Then there's what I call the readiness. How ready is it to be used, either full or empty? And then finally is the overall price, or not cost, but I'm going to talk about value for what you get. Now, first things first, let's talk a little bit about luggage on motorbikes. And this is from just my experience, not from a professional, so you better whiz off to one of those pro channels if you want to find out what people really think about luggage. But here's what I've kind of found so far. Apart from those 4 key breakdowns, I kind of think there are some bikes that luggage just looks good on. You know, it's designed from the ground up to have luggage. And sports tourers, for example, you know, they are very typically bikes that look good with luggage, and a lot of them come with luggage. I think BMWs come with it, and even things like the Honda Goldwing. You know, they're designed to be tourers. They have luggage built in, and it adds to the look of the bike. Now, there are some bikes that would just never look right with luggage. You know, it would just be not what they're about. And of course, you've got scramblers, you've got those racetrack bikes, you've got sports bikes when they're just kind of heads down going somewhere. But the more people kind of start to use them as daily commuters, then there is the kind of what I call the middle ground, which is most bikes actually, where we need to adapt and add our own luggage. Now, I've got 4 bags actually that I've bought over the years, and they kind of come down into 3 categories. Now, the first one that I bought was my trusty Trip Machine, which is a beautiful, gorgeous, stylish bag. I'll talk a bit about that in a moment. Then I bought myself well, actually it was for my birthday, a 10 litre Rhinowalk bag, which is just very practical, not particularly stylish. The next one that I bought was, now, am I supposed to be going up that road or down here? Oh well, I'm only out for a ride and a chat, so it doesn't really matter. If I get turned back, I'll turn back. And then I bought another Rhino bag, so I bought 2 of them actually. I bought a 10 litre, and then later on I bought a 30 litre Rhinowalk bag. And then the last one I bought that you might have seen in previous videos was my Q bag. Now, these are not all huge, these are just kind of small practical bags. I'm going to talk about why I bought them and what I think of each one briefly in this video, and then I'll make a kind of a bit more detailed video on each later. But the final one that I'm looking at, I might have mentioned before, is a kind of top box. And I'm going to talk about the kind of the whys and the wherefores, the pluses, the minuses, and all that kind of good stuff on the top box and what that means. Well, there you go. There's a clue. So this road's now definitely closed. So I will turn around. carefully. I see the gravel here. Don't you just love turning a bike on gravel? Lovely jubbly. Still, it's a lovely area around here, so it's always nice to come down this road, and even nicer without any cars, dare I say. Anyway, so yeah, so a top box, and I'll talk a bit about that at the end and what I'm looking to do. Now I'm going to start with the first bag I bought, which is the trip machine. I think of all my videos, the most asked question, I haven't done any survey or statistics, but from memory, is what is that bag you have on your bike? Oh, by the way, I should add, for purposes of what they call transparency, this is all my own money. Absolutely zero sponsorship in any of this. There is absolutely nothing I'm getting for making these videos. These are bags I've bought myself. I know that some people have been sponsored and they've managed to get some stuff from Trip Machine, but that's not me, not me. So, it looks like that one's closed as well. I could have gone down there, but okay, fair enough. So, yes, bought this with my own money, and I absolutely love it, the Trip Machine bag. Now, this is one that would definitely score, of all the bags I'm talking about today, the highest on the style. This is definitely something of style. It's handmade, I believe, with real leather, and it just looks the part. I've had this for, I don't know exactly, it's well over 3 years now, and it's been through all sorts of weather with me. It's come rain, come shine, it just sits on the bike the whole time. And initially I needed a little bit of luggage area because there was nothing, and I bought this when I had the Meteor 350. I had nowhere to put anything. So this just seemed nice. It was very simple, no mechanics required. It just sits on the tank through magnets. Yeah, it's been good. Now, I can't remember the actual literage of this bag. I'll put it up on the screen if I find it. But it's enough. It's basically everything I need in terms of practicality and the few items I carry. And by the way, just for those interested in what it is that I actually carry, generally speaking, I have a disc lock, I have a helmet lock, I have the springy thing when you connect the disc lock to put onto the handlebars to remind me that I've got a disc lock on so I don't ride off. Occasionally I'll have a rucksack. I've got one of these stuff-it rucksacks that it means that if ever I go to a shop or buy anything, I can use the rucksack, but it stores away quite nicely. I got it as a freebie with the National Trust membership one year. And when I had the Super Meteor, I had a tyre repair kit in there. You know, the little ones where you have the patches that you could just repair a tubeless tyre by the roadside with some kind of small gas canisters. So those are kind of the things that I generally carry around, and that's great for that, really good. And it all fitted in here. Now, occasionally I would go away for a day, and I might want to add a sandwich or some biscuits, so I just take the rucksack out because I know I'm not going to a shop. And I've even got a water bottle that I would put in there, and it was doing everything great, really good, and I've loved this, and it's been very, very useful. So in terms of practicality, I would kind of give it a medium. Now, the size isn't really what I'm coming at from practicality. I'm just talking about accessibility in this case. Now, this particular Trip Machine it opens from the top. Now, some of them you can get clips where they clip shut. Mine is one of the older ones, I think, where it actually is the proper kind of strap. So you have to undo the straps each time. So that is not quick. That is a kind of a slow process in getting the straps undone. But that in itself isn't the problem, because it's a real characterful bag, and that's quite nice. What is not so practical about it is the fact that it has a zip opening just at the top, which means that if you need something that's at the bottom, you do have to take everything out, which is a bit of a shame, because that means that it oh, that's the road I would have come out of. So it's definitely very close. Yeah, got some major works going on there. And it really came to head a few weeks ago, actually, when I was visiting a hospital. Although I've visited cafes in the past, when I visited the hospital, I was in a bit more of a get-there mode. Normally when I stop off at a cafe, I'm just chilling out, enjoying the bike, maybe chatting to another biker or just someone who likes the bike or a friend. And so I just take my time, so it hasn't really noticed. But when I was at the hospital, all I wanted to do was lock the bike up, get the bits on the bike, and then just go in. Well, with the top access on the trip machine, it meant that it was just a bit more fiddly. I had to literally take everything out because they generally keep the disc lock at the bottom. And so that's kind of, I'd give it a medium on practicality. So very high on style, medium on practicality. And yeah, and in terms of readiness, now what I mean by that is, does it work if it's full or empty? And I'd actually give it quite high on readiness because, you know, I could ride around with this thing on my bike with nothing in it and it looks really good. It looks good, it looks nice, and if it's empty, it doesn't matter. It's there, ready if I want to put stuff in it. So I kind of are fairly high on availability. Now, in terms of value, of course, it has to score low because this is a very expensive bag. You're paying a premium price here, and for some people that might be worth it because of the style. And I'll be honest with you, when I bought it, I'd just not long had my Meteor 350 and I'd returned to motorcycling after a few decades, so I was very much excited, and it was definitely a style purchase. I needed a bit of practicality, but I was buying it because of its looks, and it does look lovely. But these things ain't cheap. Now, I did get this at a special price. There was a particular retailer offering quite a good price at the time. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because it was the end of the line before they started introducing the clips, whether they just ordered it wrong, or I don't know. But I did get a slight, well, I got quite a good discount actually, but it was still expensive even when I paid for it. So yes, so there you go. So my trip machine, I would say, if I can do this from memory because I'm riding, I'd say it's very high on the style stakes. It's kind of medium on the practicality. I'd say that it's medium to high on the readiness, but I'd say very low on terms of value. But if looks is your goal, then you might change that because the value is why you're buying it. But as a bag, I'd say low value. As a stylish addition to your bike, you could argue that might be high. So that's my trip machine, and it's called a tank and tail bag if anyone's interested. I don't get paid for any of this, so any links, if I put the links in the description, I'm not sure if I will yet, they're not affiliate links. I'm just pointing you to the, in fact, I'm going to try and put the manufacturer's links on where possible. If I can't find them, I'll just put someone who sells them links. But they're nothing to do with me. But if I were you, any link I put on, I'd shop around because you probably get a better price elsewhere. Right, the next one on my list of discussions is the Rhinowalk. Now I'm going to kind of combine both the 10 and the 30 litre here because they're basically the same bag. They just are different sizes. One's 10 and one's 30 litre. They do a 20 litre as well. Now let's start with, in terms of style, yeah. It ain't got none. You do not buy a Rhinowalk bag for a fashion parade. You know, it's a bike, it's a bag that just is there for practical purposes. So that's kind of like the Rhinowalk. So very low on those purposes. In terms of practicality, I'd kind of say it's quite high. I quite like the Rhinowalk because it is a copy, I have to be honest, it's a copier of a very well-known brand. Some of you might know, Krieger. Krieger is a very well-known brand, and Rhinowalk is kind of like a, I don't like to use the word cheap, because cheap is, let's call it value brand. You know, it's something which has got good quality. I've had my 10 litre for over 3 years, and it's been absolutely fine. You know, people might argue some stitching, refinement or whatever, but for me, I'm not looking at it. It's not a fashion thing. It just sits on the bike. I stuff stuff in it and then I ride off. So the Rhinowalk I'd give, you know, a pretty high for practicality. Now when I went to Wales, I needed a bigger bag and all my clothes stuffed inside it. And it was fantastic. I just, in the bedroom, took it upstairs, got all my clothes folded, and then I put them together and I just stuffed them into the bag, and then added in my toilet bag and all that, and bits and pieces around it. It was great. And there's a couple of zips on the side and on the top where you can just add if you want quick access to bits and pieces. Now the really clever design with this that I like which is kind of why it scores high on the practicality. It's not just for putting stuff in, but the way that it works, you can actually attach bags to bags. So in my case, I have the 30 litre, but you can attach up to 2 smaller bags. So I could attach a couple of the 10 litre. Now I've only got one 10 litre, so what I can do is attach another 10 litre on top. So that gives me a kind of 40 litre purpose. And if you've got other bags, you can just keep attaching them to themselves. So it's quite useful like that. Now the real practicality of this, which is why it's possibly one of the higher practicalities, depending how you look at it, but for me, I don't really need that level of practicality that often. Generally, I don't need it at all. I just need it once a year, twice a year to just go somewhere. And so when I'm not using it, the fact that it's soft and you can literally physically roll it up or fold it up means that when you're storing it, it hardly takes any space at all. And I find that incredibly useful. So yeah, in fact, some of the bits I take off of bikes, like the seats, people might remember my YouTube video that I did a while ago, which, you know, sits on the front. All of those bits that I want to be looked after, I actually use the 10 litre bag when I'm not using it on the bike to just store stuff in the garage. So it becomes a useful item in the garage, but the bigger one I just roll up and stuff away. So yeah, so kind of good on that state. Now the readiness, it's definitely low. Definitely low. You see, these bags are useless if they've got nothing in them. So it's not something you can keep on the bike, the Rhinowalk. I should think the Krieger's the same. You could strap it to you, and some people use them as bags to keep things in, like first aid kits, repairs, stuff, bits and pieces. You know, if you've got stuff in it all the time and you've got a smaller one, it's fine. But if you're using it for luggage and then you take all your luggage out, it's just a floppy bit of black plastic bag, whatever. Well, it's not plastic, but it's kind of materials of such. So yeah, I think it's, in terms of readiness, it's very low. Now in terms of value, the Rhinowalk is off the scale. You know, it's a fantastic value bag, absolutely fantastic. You go onto Amazon, and I think for the 30 litre, it's about £40 or so in the UK. So 42, something like that. Now they had a Prime Day deal a while ago, and they were down to 31, 32 quid, which is when I got mine. I was just lucky. I was just looking for it at the time. So yeah, the Rhinowalk bag is very low on the look stakes. I'd say very high on the practicality stakes for various reasons. Very low on the readiness stakes, but very high on value. And that's whatever size you want. Now the difficult thing with Rhinowalk is knowing which size you need. And it's a real guess. I kind of guessed that I needed a 30 litre bag, and I was kind of pretty close actually. That's pretty good. In terms of the 10 litre, I could argue that 10, maybe 20 might have been better. I don't know. It's kind of one of those things. And then even the 30 litre, if I got the 10, I could have used the 10. Sorry, if I got the 30, I could have got a 20 and then used the 10. So that's something you need to figure out and play with. But we're not talking huge sums of money here, so it does give you a lot of flexibility in terms of what you do and how you do it. So those are the first two. Now, the last one on this initial list, before I get to what I'm thinking of doing next, is my Q bag that some of you may have seen kind of first showing in the last video, because I haven't had it long. Now I mentioned all the things that are good about the Trip Machine, stylistic look and all that, but when I was at the hospital that day, the practicality of just wanting quick access became very evident. Now what I like about the Q bag is it's 3.5 litres under normal conditions. It straps to, well in my case the luggage rack, but you could strap it to a seat, and the flexibility of the straps mean they can go frontwards and backwards or sideways, so you've got flexibility there to strap it to pretty much any bike actually. And I've seen people put them on GS 1200s, put them on small 350s, and of course I've now got one on my classic 650. So you can strap them, and then the really clever thing is that if you want to take it off, because straps can be a bit fiddly, you just simply unzip it. Yeah, there's a zip at the bottom that you just wind the zip round and then off it pops. And I found that very useful in terms of just being useful, because it's just nice to be able to just whip it off easily and know it's secure on the back, so I can take it with me when I carry it in. Now, the other thing that I really like about this bag, well, there's a couple of things actually, and that is that it opens at the side, or the top. And when I say the top, it's kind of, I said the top on the trip machine. What I mean by that is the trip machine opens at the top, which is the narrowest part of the bag, whereas the Q bag, it's the top because it's flat, but it actually means that you get full access to the full length of the bag. And that means that I can just see everything. As soon as I open it, I can see everything, so I can get access to what I want, put things in and out. It's been a real game changer for me in terms of, just because of the practicality. It's just been really nice to be able to use it, and I've been able to get a bit more in it. Now, the other really good thing about it, as well as being able to zip off and being able to access from the top, but for me, is it actually has another zip that takes it from 3.5 litres to 5 litres, so it's expansion. So whereas day to day I'll have my disc lock, my coily cable, my helmet lock, maybe my rucksack and a few other bits and pieces, if I'm going away for a day, I can put sandwiches in there and a flask and some biscuits and some bits and pieces, so I won't go hungry. So that's really good for that perspective. Now, the amazing thing about it is, so stylistically, I should start with that. Stylistically, which is the first thing, I'd say medium. You know, it doesn't look fantastic. It's nowhere near as good as the trip machine, but it does look okay, I think. It's quite a nice looking bag, and I like it. But I'd go to give it a medium, because you don't buy it for its stylistic stuff. In terms of practicality, taking out any size, I just think it's super practical. The expansion that you can do, and if you haven't got a lot in it, you can have it small, but it stays rigid, so that's quite useful. Yeah, very practical. And of course you can take it off, so you can carry it, and it has a handle, which is really useful. I'm kind of jumping around here because I missed it, but the trip machine does have a strap, but it's okay, it's usable, but it's a bit of a pain. It just takes a bit longer when you want to use it. There are some smart ways. I'll talk a bit more about that when I do the proper review of it, but there are some nice, clever ways of using the strap, but it's still fiddly, whereas the handle on the Q bag is just there. So if I go into a hospital, or go into a shop, or go into a cafe, I just literally just unzip it and off it pops. Very, very easy. And it just lives on the bike. So practicality, I'd give it a high. You know, it's definitely a high scoring practical. Now, in terms of readiness, yeah, another high. This is a high scoring practical bag. It's basically, it can run around empty, unlike the Rhinowalk bags. So it's just, you know, it's there if you want to put stuff in. If you don't have much stuff, it's fine. But even more so, the fact you've got that expansion means that it's ready for what you've got, and then it's got ready to add even more than you had. So I love it. I think it's great. Now, a couple of little things. I'll kind of probably jumping into the review a bit, but it's not waterproof, but it's okay for a bit of a shower. And it doesn't come with a cover like most do. But that's not a bad thing. And let me tell you why. Because when we come onto the value of this thing, we're talking £25. Now, I think there's a list price which is much higher, and they claim they've got a sale on at the moment, but I've watched videos or seen people talk about this 2 years ago, and which is kind of how I first found it. But it's, you know, it's been in 25 quid for a few years now, and it's been reduced from the list price, so it seems to be a permanently reduced price from what I've seen. I mean, I wouldn't stand up in a court of law and present that as absolutely infutable evidence, but from what I've seen, it seems to be, it's just a great value bag. For the money it is, I'd just say that this is a great buy. And if all you want is just a very simple bit of practicality, then the Q bag is to me, it's just perfect. Yeah, I do like the Q bag. So in summary on that one, we've got stylistically, it's only a medium. It looks okay. I think it looks all right, but it's no trip machine leather bag. It's practicality, yeah, very high. I think it's great, perfect for what it is. In terms of readiness, absolutely ready all the time, high on readiness. And in terms of value, I think it's off the scale. I think that's a great value bag. Probably of all the bags I've got, even more than the Rhinowalk, because it's so practical and readiness, I think this is the best value for what it is. So yeah, that's definitely my favourite. And it's just been great. And with this lovely, glorious weather that we're enjoying, and we've been enjoying for a little while now, the great news is that if I go to a cafe, it's very easy for me to just take the helmet lock that I have out the bag and lock the helmet to the bike, and then in I go. Now what I then do, on my helmet I have a few items. I have my Ghost XL camera, but I take that off the helmet and I pop that in the Q bag, so all the locks come out, so that goes in. And then I've got my cardo as well on the side of the helmet, and obviously all the gubbins stay on the helmet, but the actual cardo itself, which pops off, I put that in the bag, and my gloves. So what I do is I kind of, from the cardo, everything comes off the helmet and off my hands and into that, and then I can unzip it and then pick it up on the handle and carry it, and then all the locks and everything go on the bike. So for me, it's been a great game changer. But this lovely weather doesn't last forever, as we all know, and there are days when it's wet and it's cold and it's miserable, and I might want to carry a bit more. Or if I go into a cafe, I don't want to really hang my helmet on the bike, and I don't really want to walk in with a wet helmet. So that is why I am now considering seriously a top box. Now the one I've seen the most pictures of, and the one that does appeal to me the most, is the Givey. And it's I think they brought out one recently. There's the Plus 45 has been out, the Plus 45 has been out for a while. I think I'm saying that right, I'll put it on the screen, whatever it is. But more recently I think they brought out the Plus 45B. Now the Plus 45 is the 45 Plus, I'm just doubting myself now, has been the kind of like the go-to, and it's got slight grey inserts, but the B has black inserts. And if I've looked at pictures on any classic 650, that seems to be the one they show. Now it's 45 litres, so it claims to handle 2 helmets. I very rarely, if ever, need 2 helmets. I just need the one, but obviously always useful. But more importantly for me, my plan is to just use a box like that to put the helmet in and then put my jacket in. And also waterproofs. Now I've got jeans with all the relevant protection, and although they look like jeans, they're actually waterproof. So I am very happy with these if it rains, but when it's pouring down and there's mud on the roads, I don't really want to get these dirty. So an extra pair of waterproofs, even white ones, I could throw into the Q bag, but I just think having those as a standby in the top box is what I'd like. So I think they now do the base plate for the Givey system, they call it the Motorbike. Then of course the base plate just fits to that, and then you get your top box as suits. So that is what I am currently thinking of. Now, if I do get it, I will definitely share it with you. It may appear in a few video snapshots if ever I do, but I'll probably be towards the end of the summer, because the setup I have now is a great summer setup. It's less intrusive, less ugly, the bike still retains some of its character. The top box does take away from that character, but personally I don't really care that much, because I don't look at it. Can you see my view now? I'm looking at my handlebars, my lovely analog speedo, that lovely whole dash area, my little peak cap over the headlight. It just looks great, loving it. So you know, I don't need to look at a top box when I'm riding. But you know, it's not a big bother. But in the summer it's still nice to just have something a bit lighter, so then I can take the top box off and then pop maybe the Q bag on, so I've got that flexibility. So that's my thinking, and that's what I've learned. And when I approach a bag, those are kind of the 4 key areas that, without realising it, that's what I've been doing. And if you've been looking at a bag, I'd love to know what your criteria are. Have I missed anything? Anything that you've learned that I perhaps haven't thought of? Now, the one outstanding question that some of you might have are saddlebags, because the panniers on the side is what most people go for. Now I've always liked panniers, but to me they're kind of something I don't really need. You see, what I need more than anything is somewhere to put the helmet and the jacket. So I like the idea of just chucking the gloves, my helmet, the jacket, and locking it in a safe box. And that's what the top box is about. The panniers are a better place for luggage. Oh, much better than any Rhinowalk or Kruger bag, because you can just stuff stuff in there. If you want to go shopping, you can put stuff in there. There's a lot of practicality, but me personally, I don't really need all of that. So that's why I'm less worried about panniers. I don't need that kind of level of luggage on a bike, so it's a lot of money I don't need to spend. And the hard plastic stuff, well, if I was to go touring around Europe, yeah, maybe, you know, or even around the UK, that's fair enough, but I don't plan to. If I go away, I just need a few nights' clothes, and my Rhinowalk suffice for that. I'm kind of happy with the Q bag for its practicality, the Trip Machine for its looks, and come winter or a bit more serious riding, the top box. And of course, a 45 litre top box means that if I am going away, I could just stuff all the clothes in that anyway. So, you know, it could just be, but we'll see. Now, all of that might be a kind of a fairly straightforward, fairly quick overview, but for me it's taken a long time to arrive at that conclusion. And by the way, I've mentioned Givey. I'm open to other, you know, it's just the only one that I've seen pictures of, so I am open to other things. So if you found one and you see anything that's good, top boxes or panniers for this bike, I'd love to know what you found. Because one thing I have noticed with the Classic 650 is there doesn't seem to be very much on offer in terms of luggage. It seems to be early days. Even our trusty friends coming in from the UK here over at Hitchcock's Motorcycles, although they've got a couple of pages with kind of standard stuff that would fit this bike, they don't really seem to have much at the moment. I thought I remember the Meteor 350 having a lot more accessories at this early stage in its life, but I might be imagining that. I might be making it up, who knows. So yes, I've been a bit disappointed we've not seen more accessories for this bike yet, but I guess it's early days still, so time moves on and time will tell. And I know it was released in India later than in the UK, and I think that India is normally, once things get going there, then maybe we'll see a bit more stuff. So now I just want to add in a couple of footnotes. A lot of people say with the magnets on the Trip Machine bag, or no, what people actually say is, oh man, you don't want to do that because that's going to scratch your tank. I'm guessing they've never had a magnet bag on a tank. Now, I'm not saying it can't, I'm not saying it won't ever, but I've had this, as I say, 3.5 years, and it's never ever scratched my tank. Now, you've got to be cautious, don't get me wrong. It actually even says in the instructions if people even actually bother to RTFM, but if you, that's read the manual by the way, it actually says make sure you wipe it and clean it before you put it on the tank. So mine lives on the tank, so it's always there, so it's clean. But when I take it off, which I do sometimes, maybe if I'm washing the bike, I always wipe the tank. And, sorry, the tank, not the tank, the bag. So that there's absolutely no foreign objects that can get between the tank and the bag, because obviously that could stretch. The other thing is people worry about, is it moving, just naturally moving, causing scratches, and it doesn't. The magnets on the back have been very well selected. So I talk about it not scoring high on the value because it's very expensive unless you're into style. But what I will say is that the Trip Machine products are exceptionally high quality. So although I say they're not high value, they are a premium product. But remember that it's not an expensive product or an overpriced product, it's a premium product. So they are handmade, the stitching and quality is outstanding, the quality of the leather is outstanding, and as long as you look after it, it does need treating, but need cleaning and treating, but as long as you do look after it and keep an eye on it, then, you know, this thing could last a lifetime, in fact longer than your lifetime probably. So, and I'm not being paid to say any of that, you know, I am literally just a hobbyist, and as I say, I paid it out of my own money, so this isn't me getting anything or any kickback from this. This is just me just sharing with you, fellow riders or people who are just interested in bikes. So there we go. Those are my thoughts for luggage that pertain, maybe slightly more biased towards the Classic 650 because this is where I'm at, but really it could apply to most bikes, this Luggage. But yes, anyway, those are my thoughts about Luggage. How I select them, what I like about them, what I have, what I do with them, what's good about them, what maybe not quite so good, and also what I'm thinking of doing next. Now, I'm very interested in your thoughts, because I might have missed something entirely. There might be a whole Luggage range that I've missed for this bike that I don't know about. I'd love to hear that. I mean, if you're watching this 6 or 12 months from now, then chances are, then yeah, there might be more on the market. But just as things are stand at the moment, that's what I found. But yeah, it's a lovely bike, and I want to make it as practical, as I said in my last video, to use as it is fun to ride. Anyway, thanks for joining me. It's been great having you along again for the ride. Take care, ride safe, and I look forward to catching up with you all very soon. And thank you for joining me, musician on a motorbike. Bye for now.